Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very excited to welcome in today's discussion Swaroop Mohanty. He's the Chief Executive Officer of Mirae Asset Investment Managers or Mirae Asset Mutual Funds, as you know. He's been with Mirae Asset Mutual Funds since 2011, so experienced with both the various stages that the industry and his company's been through. So, a very warm welcome, Swaroop. Great to have you in this discussion.
Thank you so much, Adil. My pleasure being with you, and thank you for having me.
Great. So, Swaroop, the discussion tends to be very data driven. But before that, right, I know you're a wildlife enthusiast, and I've been trying to go to Sanjay Gandhi National Park in Mumbai, which is just 45 minutes away from the city. Tell me, have you been able to see or do any of your wildlife in the last 3-4 months?
The last one I did was Pench. I must confess that I was really not aware of the rate at which the pandemic would unfold. So I did Pench on the 5th of March, and I came back just before that. And I was lucky to have done that. Had some good sightings, in fact. But coming to Sanjay Gandhi National Park, yes, I have been there twice or thrice. But the leopards have still eluded me, and I have not been able to see anything. But hopefully, one day, now that they're going to allow staying over at night, I look forward to staying at one of those tents very soon.
Great, great. So let's now go into our discussion. So my first question is, Mirae Asset globally is about $145 billion in AUM across multiple asset classes, ranging from mutual funds to ETFs to debt to private equity. Tell us a little bit about the group for people who are not aware how large the South Korean group is.
Yeah, that is 145 or 147 billion in assets on the asset management side. But if you put all our assets under management, including the real estate and all our ventures, it would cross 400 billion as we speak, spread across the globe. What people should understand that, as a name, we come from South Korea. We were the organization which started the mutual fund industry just 21, 22 years ago in South Korea. And some of our funds have done very well because we are owned by a fund manager, and Mr. Hyunju Park, who's our chairman, himself started this entire industry. And we've been very fortunate to see this journey unfolding under his vision. What is very unique about us is that, 21 years ago, we were a long only equity fund house. And in this process, we've diversified from that to becoming a true-blooded asset manager across asset classes across the globe. What I've learned from them is, look at the asset management business as a cash cow, and from it, because of it being a very regular sort of income kind of a balance sheet, use that revenue to start building other businesses. That's something which we've just about started doing in India. Hopefully, in the next 4 or 5 years, people in India will see us far bigger than just being a mutual fund. We are in the process of forming our own NBFC, and of course, we have our own small private venture capital arm, which will start being on its own in the next few months. So in India, if you see, we manage assets on the mutual fund side of around 50,000 crores as we speak. But we are known more as an equity fund house. It's not our desire to be one, but that's how our history has been. But in the next 2-3 years, you'll see us developing on both the asset classes, which is debt and equity, and in both forms, both in the active as well as in the passive side of the business, because we see the future, or we are being on the threshold of that change in the way people invest. In the private space, Mirae Asset has been investing in Indian companies on our own, through our own sourced money. And the key investments till now have been Ola, Big Basket. We've had some stake in Zolo Stays, amongst others. We are in the process, as I said, of forming a separate company in the VC space. Till now, we've been working closely with the Seoul team and sourcing investment opportunities for them. Going forward, it will be a decentralized operations in India.
Great. Okay. So, I think follow-on conversations or questions will come. We'll discuss NBFC. Also, like you said, very interesting what you've done in Ola, Big Basket, Zolo on the private side. But let's focus on the 50,000 crore mutual fund now. So, Swaroop, it's a competitive market. If I was
Yes.
to ask you a hard question, right? What is your USP? Why Mirae Asset Mutual Fund? How would you answer that?
Yeah, I do agree, Adil, that it's a very competitive market and the landscape is very diverse. And hence, it becomes very important for us at Mirae Asset to remain focused on what you can do at all points of time. It is a known fact that discipline is the key to wealth creation, and that discipline has to be imbibed from a business plan perspective, is the way we look at the business. The other way of looking at it could be, to be very disciplined on what you cannot do. So the do's and don'ts are very clear from our side. One has to concentrate on things that you can do and not get carried away by things which others do. I mean, there are a lot of things which others do which are definitely better than ours. And then not giving into that temptation is key to building a strong business for yourself. So over the years, you would have seen that we've stuck to keeping our business centered around our fund management team and our fund management capabilities. And the second thing that comes in is to slowly but surely build a good product track record over the period of time. That's our core business. Okay, we launch funds only if we feel that we believe we can manage them, and in that process there are many categories which are very good, but we feel we can't do justice to them, so we stay out of them. In our business, the product remains the center of everything, and we like to keep it the most important thing for all times to come. We know that our growth is an outcome of investor experience. Say right now we manage around 50,000 crores of assets. We feel that if we can keep this investors of 50,000 crores happy, they themselves can give us 50,000 crores. That's the way we approach it. So being very investor centric and giving them a good investment experience is key to our business.
Got it, got it. So let's just dive into some hard data over here, right? And I was quite, it was quite interesting. When we look at the hard data, there's a hybrid equity fund. It just turned 5 years. And since inception, it's returning pre-tax, right? 10.3% over that 5 year period. There's also an emerging blue chip fund by Mirae Asset that's 10 years anniversary now, returning 18%. Just talk to us about these two, and are these the kinds of products one should think about staying in long term through the COVID pandemic?
See, I think any product that one chooses, when you look at the product selection, before you select that, there is a process. I personally feel that the financial plan is a factor of what your goals are, and what you want to do with the purpose of investing. And then the plan unfolds, keeping in mind your risk profile, and that leads to an asset allocation. After that the fund selection comes in. Typically, we followed a process where the fund is more important than the process, which I just wanted to highlight that it is not. Now, if it does the filter and it comes to these two schemes as being the funds which are selected as per the plan, yes, I would agree that both these schemes have been standout schemes, especially emerging blue chip, which has been a 10-year track record, as you rightly put out. And 10 years is not a small track record to be in that kind of a market. It started as a mid-cap fund, but today it is positioned as a large and mid-cap fund. Because when the categorization happened, we thought we would stick to the categories as per the portfolio rather than change our funds to fit a certain name in the category. But the hybrid fund has been a story. I mean, typically, we are a fully invested fund, and we do believe that static allocation, along with a periodic rebalance, has a very superior wealth creation strategy. And this has been demonstrated by the hybrid fund, which has completed 5 years of track record and pretty unblemished track record, I must say. So both these funds have been good funds along with our other funds. What we can tell all our investors is once you come to the selection of our funds, we can assure you that we'll remain true to label on those funds, and we'll ensure that we manage it in the way we've said that we would manage it.
Right. Half in jest, but I wish I had spoken to you 10 years ago and I made 18% in your emerging blue chip fund. But see, one question I get asked, Swaroop, is I'm also saving for a daughter's education.
Yeah.
They're saying in 10 years, right, if you look at equity or even let's say your hybrid equity, which is 70% equity, what kind of returns can I back of the envelope expect in the next 10 years, right? How does one answer that? Because we know right now, if you're looking at bank fixed deposit, you're talking about 6% pre-tax, 4.2% post-tax. So when it comes to this, right, equity or hybrid equity, ballpark, what can I expect in my 10-year daughter's account?
See, actually, the return expectations are a factor of certain things that you put about is an inflation factor to it, a GDP factor to it. As long as the risk return profile is commiserating the risk or the risk that you take, it is good. From that perspective, when you look at the bank deposit, they would be at the lower end of that spectrum. Above that would be the actively managed debt funds, and above that would come equity. If this falls in that pattern, it makes sense for you to take the additional risk that you take towards the volatility of equity. And then as markets become more and more, what can I say, streamlined, the alpha generating capabilities or the abilities of the market also start shrinking. And that has been evident over the last 5-7 years. Especially the Indian markets from an equity perspective have been very different from a lot of other markets, because we've had a very skewed run towards a few number of stocks over the last 2-3 years. Hence, beating the benchmark for a diversified fund profile, which the mutual funds are becoming a little difficult. So one has to keep that in mind when one invests going forward, because the thing that we say and which is true is that past performance should not have an indication to the future, and that's something which should be highlighted time and again to all the investors going forward. Yeah. So the most important question that you've asked is a return projection, and the return projection is a accumulation of all this that I've said. I mean, let's assume that, when India was growing from an underdeveloping company to a slightly developed economy to a developed economy, the returns will also start shrinking, but a lot of other factors will start shrinking also. The interest rates will also start going down. So it's a factor of all that. So my first, submission to you would be, those are returns of the past. And they are definitely not the returns of the future. As long as you are getting an inflation adjusted premium to your risk taking ability, that return should be considered. And today, if you look at, say, in the large and mid cap space, any return around a double digit on the next 5-7 years should be considered as good returns going forward, is my submission, over a period of 5-7 years at least. On the hybrid fund, it would be slightly lower than that, but it would also compare with other returns, say debt and the bank deposits also coming down further. And we probably are talking about the loan book. The loan interest returns would also come down, in that pattern.
Got it. So you're saying that if I'm able to make double digit or 10%, consider myself lucky.
That would be a good return. That would be a good return.
Fair enough. No, that helps people who are planning for a long-term retirement corpus or a long-term child's education. So appreciate that.
That would be on a equity skewed portfolio, is my opinion.
Agreed. On equity skewed portfolio, you already clarified hybrid will be lower. So Swaroop, a lot of people were asking questions on debt after the Franklin lockdown. Now, tell us, when it comes to your products, right, do you think the worst is behind us? And can one breathe easy when it comes to debt mutual funds?
See, Adil, I made a point earlier that we stick to our beliefs and stick to doing our business within that parameter. Our house view has been market risks are temporary while credit risks are permanent. You can catch us in print, you Google us, you'll find us saying that long time since we started doing the debt business. Hence, we've stayed away completely from the credit side of the business. I'm not saying that credit is bad or wrong, but it's not something which we do. That's how we build our business. So from that perspective, I'm very happy to tell you that it's been 12 years of track record on that side too, and we've not had a single credit issue in any of our portfolios. We believe building track record for our products, and if that track record and when we build it correctly, investors sort of recognize that. Our debt journey practically started 4 years ago when Mr. Mahendra Jaju, our CIO debt, joined us, and we started this process. And we're, writing off a lot of products which were not good for us in that process. Today, the returns of the funds post Mr. Jaju is there in front of us. We have a fairly risk-adjusted product basket. And in the last 4 years, we've been able to gather a lot of individual investor money. We just launched a bank and PSU debt fund, which had a fair response in it was launched within this COVID period, and after the opening also we've been adding money. The point I'm trying to make is, if you have a good steady track record and you have to back that up with a perpetual track record, investors come to you in due course of time, and we are seeing, probably we are on the threshold of that, something which happened to us in 2014-15 on the equity side. But I'd like just to take this opportunity to point out one small factor to all debt investors in the market, is that one of the biggest investing habits in India has been the recurring deposit in banks. I mean, that's something which we must bring to the debt side, and I highly recommend the SIP route in debt funds, and approach investing from that perspective. There is enough volatility on the debt side too, and an SIP route can also benefit the investor from that perspective. So I'd leave behind all the investors with that thought.
Got it. So, see, we briefly talked about your equity products and we spoke about your debt products. Now, let's bring it together. The hard question we get asked, Swaroop, is how do I COVID-proof my retirement fund, right? So, how do I COVID-proof? Over to you.
Okay. See, when we discussed the process of financial planning earlier, I stated that the easier process, is to put down a scheme and put it in place. It is very difficult. I mean, when you look at a broad portfolio thing in place, and then when you look at making anything COVID-proof, it would mean accepting that going forward there would be event risks in our portfolio. My humble submission, and this has been a learning for myself too, because it was a stroke of luck that I had redeemed some money for my son's education just before this. I had no clue of this, but my learning going forward is when we look at building retirement portfolios, or we think of building a financial plan for the future, the path that we've taken till now has been a very straight line sort of financial plan. And that is, you put an inflation assumption and you put a return assumption, build an asset allocation, and invest accordingly. What it does when we see an event risk like COVID is that it really shakes up the entire portfolio. And then that's been the biggest learning. So my submission to make things COVID-free or event risk-free would be to graduate from a straight line financial plan, which we have been sort of progressing on, and move to a glide path sort of process. What a glide path does is systematically, as you hit certain hurdles or certain benchmarks in your financial path, you start moving part of it into safer assets. So as we reach the goal path or the goal period, it ensures that there is a smooth landing and it's a safer and surer process of reaching your financial goal over the straight line financial plan, which makes you prone to event risks like COVID.
Right. And for your son's education fund, did you follow that process of moving it from equity to debt?
I was very lucky that I just because he just passed his engineering as we speak. So I had just redeemed it and kept it because he was not coming back into me and telling me whether he was work or he would go for his MTech or whatever. But so I just kept it aside. It was a stroke of luck.
Got it.
And if it would have been invested today, obviously today it would have come back. But in the month of March, it would have been down by almost 20-30%.
Got it. Fair enough. I think congrats on your sons graduating and going for higher studies. Let's move now to some, we discussed your products. Let's talk about some customer Q&A, right? So the first question we have, Swaroop, is, should I buy gold now? First part. Second part, right? If I'm buying gold, what type of gold security should I buy?
You see, gold is a very interesting asset, and it's a very emotional asset across the country, and it's a big learning in investing. I mean, I'm a big fan of the way Indians have approached gold investing, because Adil, if you look at gold investing over the centuries or whatever, the financial planners have given us one SIP date every year. Every year there is one Akshaya Tritiya or whatever, you go and buy, right? And that day, because it's a commodity, the demand being higher, the price has to be higher. Nobody has bothered on that. We just go and buy. And then we put another factor of investing, which is very important, that you don't sell that asset class at all. So over a period, not only is it an SIP date, it is an SIP over generations. My grandmother had bought, my mother has bought, my wife used to buy. I hope my son doesn't, that's what it is. So going forward, I would recommend, and this is what happens with the growth in economy. People, once the generations start becoming economically better, there is a distinct shift from buying physical assets to financial assets. And going forward, we will see gold being bought on the financial side rather than the physical side. When to buy gold is not the question. The question is how much of allocation should you be making to gold? Once that is complete, or you say just for discussion sake, in my portfolio, I put at 10% of gold, then you put it at 10% and you go on completing that 10%. If you look at my portfolio today, it would have been a time to rebalance gold getting out of gold because that 10% has gone up to 12-13%. But if somebody is at 8 or 7%, then it makes a case of adding another 3% of gold at this moment, irrespective of price, because the price fluctuations you cannot predict. What you can predict and what you can control is your allocation. So if you are under allocated, definitely buy. If you are over allocated, you can rebalance. That's the opportunity right now.
And which instrument do you own of gold in your 10% of your portfolio?
Earlier, because traditionally I used to have a lot of, because I come from the East, and East, even the guys like me can put women to shame on the amount of gold we used to wear. So, but recently we used to buy the state-owned gold bonds, and now some of the ETFs definitely. So it's been
Got
a
it.
progression. But in
Got
my
it.
house, I'm the gold buyer. My wife is not.
Got it. Interesting to know. There was one very topical news saying that the total expense ratio for direct equity funds has gone up between 5 and 10 basis points across numerous fund houses. With this increase, right, what is now the delta in expense ratio between direct and regular plans on equity side?
I think the difference would be still around 75 basis points, if I'm not wrong. That's the average.
Got it.
The difference between the the direct NAV and the other NAV is the sales and distribution expenses. So
Right.
due to the COVID time, some sales and distribution expenses could have come down. I'm just guessing, because it's
Right.
come down a bit due to non-advertising at this point of time. So the
Right.
direct NAV has gone up a little, but that does not mean it will remain there. It could still go up. It could come down also.
Got
That's
it.
something
Got
which
it.
all investors should know, that is also a dynamic NAV.
Understood. Understood. So my next question, right, is users asking, saying there was 2,480 crores outflow in July from equity MF. Is this a signal for anything? Should they even pay attention to this particular number?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, because I've been trying to answer that question every month when we see the figures. But we discussed a bit of financial planning, and I sort of discussed the easier part, which is up to scheme selection. But the fact remains that the difficult part starts after the scheme selection. And the key to long-term wealth creation is discipline, and that would mean sticking to your financial plan. Sounds easy, but let me tell you, globally, 99% of plans fail due to lack of discipline. And when one hears such news of people redeeming and getting out of equity funds, I do agree that it would set the mind thinking. Yeah. The rational way of behaving would be to shut out the noise and go back to the drawing board once again, and to check if things are okay with the financial plan or not. If not, then one could touch it a bit. Plans are always made with a certain goal in mind, and if you're on track of that goal, there is absolutely no reason to sort of get anywhere near redeeming that money. Remember, it's always about your goals and not about the markets or anyone else's behavior. It's about your behavior, it's about your goal, and it's about your plan. One thing I must add is that COVID would act as a natural risk profiler for many, and many would have not agreed with the ups and downs of the market. If that be the case, then it makes prudent sense to go down and inculcate that change in risk profile to your financial plan. And if some amount of changes on the equity side are to be made due to some discomfort, one should make it. But a big shout out to the SIP investors. I think what such a pandemic or such volatility does, it gives you the rupee cost averaging for which you invest. So volatility is the biggest friend of an SIP investor, and especially the SIP investor should not leave the market at all. But one small caveat at the end of the day: if there is a cash flow requirement due to any implications of COVID, then one should redeem. Otherwise, if you're on this goal or a path of your goal, just stay put.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that resonates with us. So, we have 50 million registered customers at Bank Bazaar. And what we're saying is, if you can continue, right? If you can continue your SIPs, please do. But if you're facing financial hardship, then pay your EMI, because that is an
Yes,
obligation, and there's interest on that
I would agree on
principal accumulating. So I think we're on the same page. So my next question right now, you said you're in the process, and that's why you're in the office of setting up an NBFC. There's been a lot of topical news on loan against mutual funds. So Yes Bank had a press release recently. HDFC Bank has a strong product. Tell us a little bit about loan against mutual fund.
So I think a loan against your investments, or whether it's mutual fund or shares or LAS, is as it's called, is a good liquidity provider against any emergencies. That's something which one should know, and one should be aware. So if you need some money for the interim, it's a good thing to avail. My personal opinion would be not to avail it for further leverage and invest somewhere else. That's something which I'd leave behind. But Adil, I'd actually like to ask you, because you are the practitioner there on that side rather than my side, because when I checked my data on this, there was not much of loan against share on our funds. Were less than 0.1%, which are million marked. So why don't you answer that question? It's more, you are the practitioner than me.
Yeah, so Swaroop, we don't have loan against mutual fund on Bank Bazaar. But what I'll do is I'll arrange for a discussion with the banks who are offering this product, and we'll get their insight. From what I know, right, these are very recent launches, but we'll try and get some data on that. But this tees up, I think, the next question, which is in fact the last topic we're going to discuss, because our 30 minutes are getting over. Digital, right? Now, what we are seeing is that this is the time digital is really growing. What are you seeing in terms of what COVID has done to digital sales or digital acquisition of new customers, Swaroop?
It's been an amazing experience. I think, life for me had changed when I was joining Mirae Asset. My boss then had asked me a very simple question: how long will it take for the entire country to know Mirae Asset products? And in 2011, I said, what is he asking? So I flipped it back to him. What do you mean by that? How long will it take in South Korea? He says, half an hour. I said, what are you saying? He says, everybody has a smartphone, no? I'll reach them in half an hour. And that's what it dawned to me, that the future of our product is being there's a hindrance due to the lack of digitalization. And based on that, if you look at us as a at Mirae Asset, we are the smallest sales team in the market. We've been waiting for this to happen. Even before COVID, our transactions were already 70% in the digital format. Now let's face the situation. We are, by approval from the regulator, accepting deposit or investments only in the digital form, and that has changed everything. I think it has become seamless, and servicing the customer has become so much more easier. Opening an account with an online KYC has become so much more easier. And I do hope and pray that once we get out and get back to the so-called physical world, we continue in this pattern, because what we have gone through in the last, we launched two NFOs, and two NFOs garnered some 8,000, 9,000 applications in a closed, so-called closed environment, in a debt fund from outside. We are known as an equity fund, and very seamless NFOs. It was, I think, one of our best serviced NFOs that I have encountered within my stay here at Mirae Asset. So I think what is happening at the underlying is a transformation. And for me, everything has changed when I saw my wife buying vegetables online. And then if that's the behavior and it's getting extended here, cannot be a better thing to witness. I mean, it's been the best thing that's come off COVID. And my humble request to everybody is, once we get out of it, we should continue doing this, because it brings in so much of synergies between every entity, and we must make the best out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just adding to that, what we've seen is just the time to open the account, right? And also the performance of that portfolio, because you yourself have come, you've seen, you've invested, or you've taken that loan. The performance of the portfolio tends to be better also when it comes to a self-service digital channel. And I was reading a recent report which CLSA had put out, saying that 70% of all financial sales, right? They had done it for retail and SME credit, but they were saying 70% is going to be digital by the end of this decade. And I think it's actually going to happen much, much sooner, given what COVID has done. So, with that, Swaroop, I have to move to my last question. Now, there are a lot of people out there who are obviously facing a lot of anxiety and stress
Yeah.
because of COVID. Now, in addition to being a business leader, you're also a parent, you're a family man. Can you give some advice to all the people out there, right, who are facing the anxiety of COVID on how to get through this strong?
See, I think I'll approach it from an investment or a savings perspective. I think definitely COVID is the trigger that Indian investors needed, or probably is the trigger to graduate from the transactional form of investing to a more holistic financial form of investing. Though there is a lot of talk of asset allocation, let me tell you, in the real form, it is not totally in practice, is my personal opinion. So I'd like to lay down some basic thoughts and leave them behind, because at this moment of time, we've seen the difference in our own financial expense structure, and the clear distinction between needs and wants are there in front of all of us. Some of the wants which were in the disguise of needs in our mind have also got clarified. So the best thing that one can do is learn from this and restructure your financial expense statement permanently. What it can do is give up some surpluses through which you can probably go through some more hardships which are there in ahead of us. Secondly, if you're free from the hardships, you can ensure that these excesses which have come out get plowed back to your financial plan, and it can benefit in the long-term health of yours, which is becoming very important. The other thing which I'd like to leave behind to you, not from that industry, but it does give us a health scare. I know for a fact that all of us are not adequately insured on the medical side. So please step that up. And the other part is on the insurance side, the starting point should be the gap between your insurance cover and your loan. If there is a gap, first fill that up. Those are the two, three things I'd like to leave behind.
Okay. So, Swaroop, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. I think personally, I learned about the group, the over $150 billion and larger in AUM, about specifically your emerging blue chip, what it's been doing, about your hybrid asset equity, which what it's been doing. And lastly, for your just topical answers to the various topics that have been in the news concerning mutual fund. Thank you very much for your talk.
My pleasure, Adil. Thank you so much for having me.
Great. So to everyone out there, please follow this LinkedIn page, and we'll have these brilliant discussions with industry leaders where you can hear straight from them, right, on how to manage your money and your personal finance through COVID. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.